what's the issue? What's holding everybody back? If you love something, you go after it. Do you not? And you can relate this to, like, high school love. If you're a young man, maybe you know what I'm talking about, where you found that girl that you really, really like. You really like her, and there's that fire in your heart, that strong fire, and it's like, hey, you're gonna get that. You gotta do it. Whatever you gotta do, man. You gotta go out and you gotta get on a date with that girl. Hey everybody, my name is Tom Lafaso. This is Follow the Winners. I'm here today with just myself, actually. I wanted to talk about Follow the Winners. I wanted to talk about what it meant to me. I have probably about 12 podcasts out right now. I want to say 11, 12, something along those lines. And I just felt like everybody had to hear my side of the story 100%. And I also think I'm going to try and do more of these because there's a lot of great things that I'd like to talk about and get involved with. Try and inspire as many people as I possibly can. So here goes nothing, pretty much. So I was actually just listening to a podcast, and they were talking about money. And I bring this up a lot when I'm talking to my guests that I have on the show because growing up, it was an issue, I guess you could say, around money. Lots of stigmas around how hard it is to obtain that money, how to hold on to that money. Money doesn't grow on trees. My least favorite excuse that I had or I was given is we're not rich in money, but we're rich in love. And it was just like, what? Like, yeah, no shit, we're rich in love. But like every family is probably rich in love to an extent. And like, mom and dad, you're divorced. Like, what do you mean you're rich in love? It made no sense to me. No sense to me my whole life. And I kept growing up like that from all I can remember. And I feel bad if my parents are going to watch this podcast because, like, I know it had nothing to do with you guys. But, here I am, 28 years old, and I'm looking to change my life and have a different definition of money because why would I want to live my life going through the struggles and the pain, living this rat race? It sounds miserable. It's not fun. There's no reason why anybody wants to go through it. And we're all basically just modern day slaves at some point. But going back into my early years, I heard that a lot. I tried playing travel soccer when I was probably in like 8th grade or something along those lines. I'm not exactly sure on the age. 7th grade. Yeah, probably like 7th grade. So there was this travel soccer team, and I really wanted to join and get on the team, but you had to try out for it. A lot of the guys on the team were actually a year older than me. So, and my best friend at the time, my next door neighbor, or lived across the street, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to try out for this team. You should totally try out with me." And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to." So I told my parents about it, and they were like, "Okay, yeah, you could try out." We had no idea the cost of this travel soccer team. Zero. And so I think there might have been just one tryout or two tryouts. I remember running my ass off in that tryout because I saw a lot of guys, and again, they were older than me, so I knew I had to, step up to the plate. So I got to the point where they went and told everybody if they made the team or not, and they did tell me that I made the team. And then they proceeded to tell me that it was, I want to say it was $600 for the season, if I'm not mistaken. Something along those lines. And, $600, it could be a lot of money, especially when you have 3 kids. I mean, my dad, I guess at that time, had 5 kids, which is crazy. So $600 is a lot of money. But mind you, it was to be given to your son, who is then going to be playing soccer, getting exercise, learning something. It's an investment, because your son is going to learn these things. I don't know if that was ever thought on my parents' behalf. It's just the way I look at the situation now. Either way, it sucked. And being told we can't afford this was just a horrible feeling. It was horrible. I didn't like that at all. It was also kind of embarrassing because my next door neighbor, who also made the team, was allowed to play on the team. I was not. So it was a little bit awkward. Then we got into high school, and I remember my friend who got on the team. He now knew a bunch of guys that were sophomores, were freshmen, and now he knows a bunch of sophomores. So in that regard, it also wasn't fun. It really wasn't. It really wasn't. Going back to this whole money doesn't grow on trees and so on and so forth, it really is a mindset that I think everybody just has to start to change. I'm not even sitting here and being like, oh, I'm abundantly rich or have all this stuff, but I have been able to significantly change my life the second I changed the way I thought. I was just listening to this podcast. My sister, she recommended it to me, Mel Robbins. If anybody's familiar with her, I'm sure if you're watching this, maybe you are. She's really cool. She's definitely on the, more famous, popular side of motivational speakers and so on and so forth. But for right now, she had a podcast talking about the exact same thing, basically, money and everything, stresses of it, the problems behind it, how it's so hard to obtain. But everybody goes through this. Everybody does. It's not that everybody except for the rich people, right? So, but how did rich people get rich? How did they have that mentality? Well, they didn't hear no. That's part of the reason. And without hearing the word no, you look at life a little bit differently. You look at money a little bit differently. And it's funny because this always sticks with me. I'm going to go back to my neighbor that grew up across the street from me. He had two parents that lived together. They were not rich. Their house was actually smaller than ours. And I had a single mom. But they always got all the things they asked for. Always. And they never really seemed like money was a problem. And I know his parents didn't make a ton of money where I was envious of that. I knew that. I knew what jobs they had. I knew his dad got up at 4:00 every morning to get to work, or probably even earlier. And I saw that. He also had a really loud car. It would wake me up every morning, so I would hear that. But at the same token, I really do believe that it came down to the mentality, that difference. And I was always envious of my friend and his family because they never looked at money like it was an issue. They were able to go to the store and buy whatever they want, whenever they really wanted to, per se. They weren't doing crazy lavish vacations or anything like that, but it didn't seem like they really wanted to do those things. Like, it seemed like they were buying the things that they wanted. I could be completely wrong. This is on the outside perspective, looking in. But they were able to fuel that need. They were able to help people as best as not able to help people. Well, yeah, able to help people because they helped me, There was times that I couldn't afford things and I was told no, and I was almost banking on them to pay for it, which was awesome growing up. It really was. It was something else. I couldn't really explain that feeling of almost being rescued or something like that because when you're young, you don't understand it. You don't understand money, and you don't understand, especially when no one explains it to you. You definitely don't understand it. And we're all trying to get our head wrapped around this idea of money. But yet at the same time, we have parents trying to say, oh, well, we shouldn't talk about money and not trying to talk about investments and this, that, and whatever. Those things are super important. If you're listening to this right now and you are a parent, I highly suggest to continue to keep talking about money with your children. Do it for the rest of your lives. There's literally no reason why you can't talk about that. And if you can't, then maybe you got to learn something more about the situation, because by giving your child that information continuously, they'll be able to learn something maybe that you don't even know about the situation. They can unravel it and unpack it in different forms and different visions that you probably don't have. I think that's probably the biggest issue that a lot of people don't see, is that there is this investment mentality, especially when it comes to children or just young people in your life. If you're mentoring or if you're involved in any sort of just being able to help young people learn. And when I say young, it doesn't have to be 5, 6, 7 years old. It's literally in your 10 to 20 years old. Even somebody who's like around my age who doesn't know these things. It could even still be somebody in like their 30s, 40s, 50s who just hasn't got their shit together because I can't figure it out. And like, look, it's not meant to be rocket science. I know that for a fact. I personally believe we're just living in a society that is designed to confuse people on purpose. So then now we're here as the majority class just being like, well, money's hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. Oh, we can't afford it. Well, we're rich in love and not money. Like stupid shit like that. It makes no sense. When in actuality, there are processes and things that we can do to increase that. There are things that we can do to make us make more money. There are paths that we can go down that will help us make more money. Nobody wants a regular schmegular, basic ass 9 to 5 job. Like nobody wants that. Nobody wants to show up to a job where they don't feel like they're making a difference and contributing to, a greater good of some sort. Nobody wants that. Nobody. And I can interview everybody that works at McDonald's. I guarantee nobody really wants to work there. They just have to. So that's why they're showing up to work every day. Unless you're like the OG McDonald's guy, or you're like, and God bless the people that have special needs and they get to get those jobs. Like, yeah, they probably want to work there because it's easy and it's fun and it's something new for them. But in their head, they're still like 16. So realistically, other than children in the adult world, nobody wants to work shit jobs. So what do we have to do? What are the actionable causes? What are the actionable things in order to blast through this rat race that we're in? And I like to call it the rat race because I think we're all basically in the rat race in one form or the other. And I believe it's about time that we all begin to get ourselves out little by little. It's one day at a time type stuff. We're not looking for, an everyday type of situation where we're going to be like every second, I would say, where, oh my God, it's going to be all of a sudden my life's changed. Like, it takes time. I know that. I would at least allocate 6 months to figure out exactly it is what you want to do. Now, mind you, there are a lot of different things, and I would suggest things like getting yourself involved in the community, getting yourself involved in just basic research of other companies, and learn as much as you can. As being a business owner now and being in networking groups and things like that, the thing that one of my biggest takeaways from being in this industry of now a business owner, let's say, is the different companies and businesses and industries that people make money with. It's just crazy. I'm blown away by some of the industries and ways that people make money, and I'm like, wow, you make that? That's what you make? That's something that specific, and you're doing well for yourself? Like, down to the smallest of things, like a door hinge, for example. Super random that I just said door hinge. Yeah, I know. But you can make door hinges for the rest of your life and make them the best door hinge that you've ever found. And you could find passion in that door hinge. And then you could put a nice little stamp on it. Even make a gold one, just like Solomon's Temple. Like, there's so many things that you could do. And you could sell them, and you could make them cool, and you could push them, and you could go to every single shop in town and store and apartment complex, and you could go, hey, I sell door hinges. They are nice. They look good. When you open your door, you've got this beautiful door hinge to look at. It stands above all, and it shows detail. And see how many goddamn door hinges you'll sell. I swear, it's crazy. But this is the types of stuff that I'm talking about. And it aggravates the hell out of me that we live in society where it's like, it's so hard. It's like, no, it's not. You know what's hard? Complaining. That's what's hard. It sucks and it's hard to complain. And it sucks and it's hard to sleep till 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekend rather than getting your shit together and figuring out what you have to do that day and just going out and getting it done. Like, it's not hard. That's not hard. It's complaining and finding excuses. That's the hard part. I'm sorry. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this because this is like me yelling at myself about 4 or 5 years ago. And on top of it, probably a lot of my family members and so on too, because it's like, what are we doing here? Well, what's the issue? What's holding everybody back? If you love something, you go after it. Do you not? And you can relate this to, like, high school love, If you're a young man, maybe you know what I'm talking about, where you found that girl that you really, really like, you really like her. and there's that fire in your heart, that strong fire. And it's like, hey, you're gonna get that. You gotta do it. Whatever you gotta do, man. You gotta go out and you gotta get on a date with that girl at any point in time. You gotta make it happen. But it's gotta be quick. Like we don't got, we're in 11th grade, man. We don't got too much time left. Those kinds of mentalities. And then all of a sudden, you're really pushing for it. And in some cases, you get that girl, and maybe she's like the love of your life or whatever. And in some cases, you get denied by that girl, and you learn a big fat lesson. But that passion is what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be a high school love. I mean, that stuff happens throughout everybody's life. Any time, any year, that can totally happen where you find that fiery love. And I think everybody should try and find that in what they do on a day-to-day basis. If you show up to work and you're like, I don't like this at all, you should probably be doing something else. If you could somewhat tolerate it, I mean, I guess that's cool. And if the money is good, then I guess that's really good. But at the same time, obviously there's work-life balance, and everybody has different forms of what that looks like. I think keeping yourself busy Monday through Friday is pretty important, regardless if you're a millionaire, billionaire. I just think it's really important because I know for a fact that if you do nothing all day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, you're just going to turn into like a mushy person kind of thing. Your brain is just not going to work as well as it should. Even at an old age, we're just designed to, we're like machines. You got to keep, machines like to stay on, and they like to stay, fresh with hot oil at all times kind of thing. That's what it needs. And if you turn off the machine and you let it get cold, it doesn't really like that as much. And humans are the same way. We like to stay real hot. Our brains like to keep on pushing and going. So that's one of the main things. And when I say that, pushing and keep going, it just kind of reminds me that how important that really is, right? To never give up, per se. Find out what it is that you love and to keep on grinding. Make it your day. Make today your bitch, basically. Go out there, find something that makes you go, wow, okay, I really like this. I'm going to try and pursue this more. And it can be anything. Like I literally just spoke about door hinges. It's so basic, but you can literally make an entire sales pitch on a freaking door hinge if you really wanted to. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I love music, so I'm going to stay with music, which is fine. If you love music, that's fine. Or even like, oh, I love food, so I'm going to do something in the food industry. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, that's fine too. But you also have to understand that like music and food doesn't mean that you're playing in a band, and it doesn't mean that you're cooking. You can also create things like hold food, let's say, plates and dishes and containers and all kinds of shit like that. And same thing with music. How many parts go into some types of instruments and speakers and wires and all these things? Like, there is a lot there that you could try and figure out. If you love it enough, I guarantee you can think of a different innovation for that would work in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, there's creativity involved in all these things, and a lot of time and scariness and taking on fears and pushing through that. And that's why I say never give up, because those fears aren't going to go anywhere. Because as I just said, a few minutes ago, that the fear is always there. Realistically, the fear is the same as not doing it. That is the fear. And that is my fear, is not doing it. My fear is sleeping till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon and being like, oh my God, I missed stuff. That's my biggest fear, because I used to do that. I used to just say, hey, I have work today, but I'm not going to go, because why do I have to go when I have $400 in my bank account, and that's enough money for me to have fun this weekend, so that's fine. And then I can still afford my rent, because if I spend 100 of that 400, then I'll have 300, and the next week I'll get paid 600 because I worked the full week, and then I'll have 900, and then the following week I'll get another $600, and then I can spend basically 400, and then I'll have enough just for rent. Oh yeah, there's my cell phone bill, so I'll need another $75 to $100 for that. Like, that's how people think, and that's how I used to think, was like, okay, let me just figure out how I can just do this simple math, figure out how I can basically slave my life away to the very last dollar, living on some kind of bullshit budget That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Do me a favor. And if you are listening to this podcast, I love you because this is awesome. I really do. Just, I don't know. Do something else. I don't want to hear people making excuses and getting upset and frustrated. I understand. We all get upset. We all get frustrated. I do too. But when it comes down to the money aspect of things, I'm so tired of people getting upset and frustrated when it comes to money. It's not something that it's like, this is impossible. Because then why are there so many people out there that are rich? I know you could be like, oh, it's the 1%. No, it's there's people that are even in the 10% are still much more, have much more money than me and you do, who are probably watching this right now. So it's let's do ourselves a favor. Let's do ourselves a real good favor, and let's try and figure out how to get to that next level. How do we tell that old mentality, that old way of life, hey buddy, go F yourself, that kind of thing. How do we do that? So for me, and just going back into actionable things, because for me, when I listen to other people speak, if they don't give me actions, it's just a waste of talking. So one of the actionable things that I've really been able to do is the never give up mentality, I guess is what we could call it. I'm sure I could probably come up with a better name for it. So I found something that I was interested in. I like marketing and I like videos. So I scoured Indeed for marketing jobs. I found just about nothing. Then I found a video job and I was like, oh, what's this? The pay was horrible. I got paid $300 a week and I had to drive to Brooklyn 3 times a week and take video, which would take me all day because there were hair braiding that was happening. And hair braiding, if you don't know, takes just about all day. It's like a 6-7 hour ordeal. So I would film. I would get the editing done. The lady had tons of followers on social media. And I would help her with her social media, creating videos. And I was like, wow, this is cool. This is exactly what I want to do. How did I get there, though, at that point? How did I get to that point? It was exactly what I was looking for. How did I get there? Well, every night I would close my eyes and I would literally envision myself changing my life. That's one of the main things that most people should do. In any way, you have to vision it. So I started to slowly vision what I thought was, I didn't know. And I started making these videos. And then I started to envision maybe another client. So I looked some more and I got another client. And I kept doing that. And I'm still doing that. I'm still envisioning what my next group of clients looks like. I couldn't picture what it was like to have one person working for me. And now I have somebody working for me. Now I have a couple people working for me. That was a crazy belief at first, but now here I am actually paying people on a weekly basis. And I read that maybe a few months ago that what's the difference? What's a small business to the guy who has 10 companies? 10 employees, 1 employee. So then what's a small business to the guy who has 50 employees, 10 employees? And then what's a small company to the guy who has 500 employees, 100 and continue that, someone who has 1,000 or a few thousand employees, which sounds absurd. It sounds absurd. Yeah, I have a few thousand people working for me. What? You know how many lives you're changing? That's insane. God bless you. That to me is just crazy. All right. I know Tombo. Everybody say hello. This is my podcast guest today, Tommy Cat, as he's biting my arm. So I don't know. I had no agenda going into this. Usually follow inners, I'll go through all the questions. Maybe one of these days I will. I just was listening to this podcast and I was super intrigued and kind of just motivated to talk about this on my own because I am aggravated about the way that money moves in this country, the way that it's looked at, the way that some people just hold on to it and they don't want to share what they have. I'm not trying to become a multi-billionaire because, look, I am trying to become a multi-billionaire. Let's be completely honest. But I'm not trying to take all that money and not help people. I want to help as many people, but not on this basic spectrum because everybody deserves a good life. We all deserve some level of comfort and not being necessarily in this rat race. And I'm just gonna leave everybody on this kind of thought process before I wrap up things here. I saw this video the other day on Snapchat, and it was a family that was in the Middle East somewhere. I don't know, Indian family, something along those lines. And it was the father that was talking on camera, and they've been making bricks for the past 2 generations. So his great-great-grandfather was making bricks in this village. The reason why they were making bricks was because when his great-great-grandfather was alive, somebody in his family got sick, and they needed a doctor. And in order to pay for that doctor, they had to take out a loan. So they went to the person in town who had the money. They said, please, could we borrow some money? And they said, sure, no problem, but you'll have to pay it off. And in order to pay it off, you will make bricks for me. And every day, half the money I will give it to you, and half the money I will just keep it. And now it's 3 generations later, and the kids are making bricks. And there's like the dad's making bricks, and everybody's still making bricks. And they don't even know what the original contract looks like. They just do it because they're like, this is our lives. We make bricks. This is what we do, is we wake up every day and we make bricks. And it's just terrible. It really is. It's terrible. Like, that saddens me to think about. But then as I was listening to it, they were saying, the narrator was saying, this is today's version of modern day slavery. And I was just like, so credit card debt is today's version of modern day slavery? Okay, cool. So majority of Americans are modern day slaves then, right? Because it's the same concept. Okay, so you're an average American and you have probably about $5,000, $10,000 to $15,000 in credit card debt, somewhere along those lines. I probably would just hit the check mark on majority of people if you are listening to this podcast right now. Between that credit card debt, if you don't have exceptional amounts of financial income coming in through the door right now, and you just make probably less than $100,000 a year, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's say you want to buy something nice, or you want to go on vacation, or you want to do something a little bit extraordinary, or you want to go shopping spree with your family, whatever it is. You aren't really able to afford it, especially if you live on Long Island, in New York area. I was just down in Miami. It's pretty expensive over there. I'm sure California is another place. There's definitely a few places that are pretty pricey. You're never going to be able to get yourself out of this modern day slavery, though, because every time you need money and you don't have extra money that you're willing to just spend, what are you going to turn to? Your credit card. And then you're going to have to put that money on the credit card. And then you have to try and pay off that credit card. But in order to pay off that credit card, you have to work. And when you're working, you're not making enough money to really pay off that credit card. So you're now working towards the credit that you won't pay off. And then the next time you need money, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to put it on the credit card. So then by that point, you basically just paid off probably what you were doing. But again, you're still in the area of having to still use your credit card because you don't have money. So now we're in this revolving door of just, oh my, I don't have enough money. Okay, I'll just put it on my credit card and I'll pay it off, not knowing that there's a 20% interest on it or whatever the situation is. And you're just getting screwed time and time and time and time again. It saddens me. So I would love for anybody who's listening to this podcast to try their best. And I'm doing it too, so don't think that you're alone. And if you do feel alone, feel free to reach out to me. Go to my website, tloprod.com, tloprod.com. And we can totally chat offline. I'd love to talk to you, and we can, try and figure out how we can get to some root causes together and figure out, what's causing these things and how to break through it. And I can share my experiences down to the nitty-gritty detail and try and relate as best as I can, because I know this is tough and I don't want people to be alone in this spectrum, especially the young people out there. Like, let's go out, let's kick ass. Let's go take all the money from all the old people out there who are just holding on to it and being greedy. Like, fuck them. I'm ready. So if you have any questions, again, check out my website, tloprod.com. You can also just shoot me a message right on there. Thanks for watching today's show of Follow the Winners. Super excited to be doing this. I think I'm going to try and do maybe 1 or 2 more of these over the next few weeks. But fuck it. Why not, right? We're getting a little crazy on this one. So cheers. Thanks for being here.